Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes, brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Bank of America, partner sponsors, Tangram Interiors, Bonadelli Neighborhoods, and the Better Business Bureau. Our event sponsors this morning are Caglia Environmental, Camarina Health, Harris Wolf Farms, Shoal Ag Real Estate, Exobee, and D'Ambrosia Trading. Hi, I'm Gordy Webster, publisher of the Business Journal. First and foremost, a big thank you to all of you who have registered for this event. We are so grateful to have 6 outstanding community leaders with us today for our 7th annual 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes event. We're here and broadcasting live from the stunning new Tangram Interior showroom here in Fresno, just off Palm and Nees. The Business Journal is again excited to host our most popular event featuring a dynamic group of presenters. These 6 leaders, representing some of the most successful companies in the Central Valley, will each share 10 internal programs, philosophies, and initiatives from their respective lives and companies. These ideas, whether big or small, can be applied universally to any business or organization. Now, let me outline how the event's going to unfold this morning. Each speaker has exactly 7 minutes to present a selection of their best ideas, which are highlighted in bold in a program that was sent to you via email earlier this morning. Don't worry if you miss any part of the presentations. The event will be recorded and shared with you afterwards. I encourage everyone during each presentation to make notes, things you'd like to put into practice or share with others. During the presentation, we encourage you to ask questions for our 6 speakers. Please add those in the chat at the bottom of the screen. The Business Journal's managing editor, Gabriel Dillard, will be facilitating our Q&A session once all 6 speakers conclude. So now I invite you to open your digital program with 60 ideas and let's dive in. But before we begin, let's take a moment to hear from our presenting sponsor, Bank of America's Market President, Mark Riley.
Thank you, Gordon, and good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Riley. I am the president of Bank of America for the Central Valley region here. I also have the honor of leading our business banking team and supporting business clients in the Valley from the Grapevine up to the Oregon border and over to the Central Coast. On behalf of many of our employees throughout the Central Valley, I'm delighted to welcome you to the now 7th annual 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes event. When entrepreneurs and leaders in general come together, new thinking emerges, and each of us has a unique perspective developed through our own experiences. We are here today to foster that spirit of collaboration and learn from each other. And together we can exchange ideas, offer support, and challenge each other to think bigger. And like we like to say at the Bank of America, we are better together. At our firm, we too are focused on sharing best practices and driving growth and staying power. Year after year, our teams of small business and commercial bankers hold not hundreds, but throughout the year, thousands of meetings with our clients and future clients. Now, more than ever, we find that frequent communication is an effective foundation for driving the growth that we are all looking for. And during these meetings and conversations, we are sharing valuable insights that we gather from our world-class research platform, and sometimes more importantly, from our clients themselves. We share these findings with clients and the business community as a whole in the Business Journal and on topics ranging from business resiliency to succession planning and exit strategies. We know that by listening and sharing like this, we will grow stronger together. And I'll conclude my comments by asking each of you a question. It's the same question we ask our teammates and our associates, and our clients, and the same question I've asked the last several years here at this forum. And that is, what would you like the power to do? And I encourage each of you to really think about that question as it applies to your personal and professional lives. And it would be our pleasure to support you along your journey. So finally, to our distinguished panel and presenters, thank you for investing in our local business community in the way that you have by being here today. Thank you so much. And the leadership team at the Business Journal, thank you for bringing us together For 7 years in a row now, you continue to help us grow together as a community. And Tangram Interiors, thank you again for hosting us again this year in this beautiful new facility. So with that, Gordon and team, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mark and Bank of America. We appreciate the continued partnership together over the last 7 years for an event we feel brings so much value to the business community. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce the Business Journal's associate publisher, Ashley Webster Rudolph, to get us started with today's speakers.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and being with us today. So it's time to jump right in and start introducing these speakers. So let's get right to it. The Bonadelli name has been part of the Fresno home building scene for nearly 80 years. And for half of that, our next guest has been involved with the family business. Looking down the barrel of a 40th anniversary, John Bonadelli has much to be proud of, including founding Bonadelli Neighborhoods with his wife 25 years ago and keeping the family business going for generations and more. Please welcome John Bonadelli.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Ashley and Fresno Business Journal and Gordy for putting on this event. It's an honor for me to be here, be part of it. As mentioned, I'm John Bonadelli, president of Bonadelli Neighborhoods. Our family's been building homes in Fresno and the San Joaquin Valley since 1949. I'm going to share with you some of our ideas and practices that we live by at Bonadelli Neighborhoods. A lot of them are cliche, but they're true and they're successful. First one is time is valuable. Prioritize what you spend your time doing. For example, if you have a project that is a constant headache or a problem that you find you and your team devoting most of your time towards, then apply the old 80-20 rule. Spend 80% of your time and energy focusing on projects that are most valuable and successful to you and your team. In my career, I found out how easy it was to get wrapped up on issues on unsuccessful projects, spending most of my day in, dealing with an issue that I really probably should just let somebody else handle. But I learned to stay focused with 80% of my time on successful projects. The bottom line is that time is valuable and your team's time is valuable and you don't want to squander or waste it. The next idea is to always go with your gut feeling or your instincts. When I started to take risks in this business, I found the best advice was to go with your instincts. If you're not sure about a transaction or the risk involved or the business relationship or a vendor, if they can keep their promises that they're making, whatever the reasons, then don't do it. Follow that little voice in your head. A lot of times a transaction may seem too good to be true, but the numbers don't quite add up. You're not quite sure if it's all right. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a break for 3 or 4 days. I'll revisit that project or transaction and take a fresh look at it. If I'm still not sure, then it's probably time to pull the plug and go into a different direction. In the end, you need to trust yourself. Which leads me to my next practice, and that's character matters. In business, contracts are a must, but so is the character of your partner in a business relationship. Always look across the table at the person you're about to do a business deal with and ask yourself, are they difficult? Are they reliable? Are they litigious? As I mentioned earlier, go with your instincts. If you have a bad feeling, it's you're probably right. And now one of my favorite practices is keep it simple. This applies to almost every aspect of business. As an example of how it applies in our business, when we're looking at a property, we have a long checklist of analytics that we're looking at. Values in the MLS neighborhood, school districts, distance to grocery stores. But in the end, I always think about what my dad would say, and that is just keep it simple. Would somebody want to buy a home in this future neighborhood and raise their kids there? Very simple question, and that's really what our business boils down to. And so you can't forget the simple things. But keeping it simple applies to any situation in business. If you have a series of options to solve a situation, and the simple one might be a little bit more expensive, a lot of times it's always the better way to go. The last idea I'd like to discuss has to do with family business. I grew up in a family business, and now my wife and kids are part of our family business. I've learned in order for a family business to be successful, you must be honest, respectful, and unbiased to your family members. Not everyone in a family business will always agree, but having an open and honest line of communication is a must to work through different opinions and ideas for a successful family business. In conclusion, following these simple, sometimes cliche rules or ideas really can lead to success. For my family, success means building a better community for generations to come. I hope this was helpful, and thank you, Ashley and Corey, President of Business Journal.
Thank you, John. Even though our second speaker's guest's latest business venture involves using artificial intelligence for the grunt work of sales calls, I can assure you that we have the real thing joining us this morning. Casey Curtin is the founder and owner of both Cash Caller AI LLC and Sandler by Kay Curtin Consulting Inc. She brings over 18 years of business development, sales management, and leadership experience to her clients. Please welcome Casey Curtin.
Thank you, Ashley and Gordy, for having me. It is an absolute pleasure to be here and to be amongst the other speakers. So I wanted to discuss 3 valuable concepts today and really focus on not only, I think before growing your business, you really need to work and focus on growing yourself. So these are on personal development. First one is never be the smartest person. And when I say that, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. There was a survey done. It was a social comparison experiment, and they grabbed a group of people, large group of people, and they asked them one question, and they had them go into one of 2 buckets. Bucket A was you're going to make $50,000, and everybody else in the company is going to make $25,000. Bucket B is going to be that you're going to make $100,000. And everybody else in the company is going to make $200,000. You would think logically, right? You're going to want to go into bucket B because bucket B is you're going to be making twice as much money. And even though everybody else is going to be making twice as more than you, you're going to be better off. However, more than half the people that were surveyed chose bucket A. Which that tells you, I mean, we value ourselves and compare ourselves on the judgment of other people, which actually reflects on our own personal development and our self-concept. So there's 2 types of social comparisons. There's a downward social comparison and an upward social comparison. And a downward social comparison is when we compare ourselves to other people who are less off than we are. It makes us feel better. Then there's an upward social comparison where we look at other people and we say, I want to be like them, and it inspires us to be better. So seek environments where you're surrounding yourself by people who are more experienced than you, have more knowledge than you, and really inspire and elevate you to want to be better. My second concept is get comfortable at being uncomfortable. And that is a really hard one for people to take into account. So think about a tiny little circle. This is your comfort zone, right? Everybody likes to be comfortable. And so in that comfort zone, it's usually situations where we are things that we're familiar with, it's things that we're used to, we feel really confident in your comfort zone. Right outside of that comfort zone is your fear zone. And your fear zone gives you anxiety. It makes you do things that you're not used to doing. It is public speaking. It is people get anxiety getting in front of being social around other people. Then outside of that fear zone is your growth zone and your learning zone. So these are where you take your concepts that you already have and you tend to expand on those. And that is really where you learn and grow. And nothing good ever happens in your comfort zone. So when you're at a personal and professional level, I always strive and tell clients to get comfortable at being uncomfortable because that's where you're growing and you're learning and you're developing new skills. And developing a mindset and a concept to really be uncomfortable at times is going to make you grow and learn new things. Now, my last concept is don't accept your life. Instead, live your life with intention. Now, we just talked about getting outside of your comfort zone and learning to be uncomfortable. But the oldest and strongest emotion in mankind is fear of the unknown. A lot of people fear that part. So your brain is organized to reflect different aspects of your life. And so we're learned to, or all the different experience that we have. Now, it's a record of everything that you've done and things that you learned. So most people wake up in the morning starting to think about things from their past. And all of that is built up on different emotion of things of the people that you know or things that you've done. So the moment you start thinking about your problems, all of those are tied to different emotions. So your thoughts are the language of the brain, and your feelings are the language of the body. So how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. And most people's entire state of being, when they wake up in the morning, is already living in the past. So you have a choice. Whatever that choice is, it's whether I want to start working out 4 days a week, or I want to start getting up early. All of those things, when you start to make a choice, you have to get ready to get uncomfortable because now you're getting outside of your comfort zone. So you trained your body to start telling yourself different things like, I'd rather live in fear than trust the unknown. And your negative self-talk starts saying things like, I'm never going to lose that weight, or I'm going to start tomorrow, and you start making excuses. So these voices are always there because they're always they keep you in your comfort zone. So the thought of making that same choice is going to have you do the same behavior and the same emotion. And you're going to start thinking things like, this feels normal, but it doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel right. It feels familiar. So the best way to predict your future is to create it, not from the known, but from the unknown. So close your eyes right now and think about your vision, what you want your life to be. And once you envision your future and you start thinking about that, your brain starts naturally going to put yourself in that subconscious, and it starts manifesting that feeling of where you want to be. So most people wait for wealth to feel abundance. They wait for success to feel empowered. In the absence of those things, people live in lack their whole life. So they're waiting for something outside to happen to them and change the way they feel. So if you get up feeling gratitude, if you get up feeling abundance, if you get up feeling whole, and you're not going to be worrying about if those things happen because you're already going to feel like it's happened to you. So if you really want to be transformed, you really have to live an intentional life. Now, most people don't lead their life, they accept their life. And when you accept your life, you're living a life that is not worthy of your time, your energy, or effort. To go uphill does not happen unintentionally. No one ever walks uphill by accident. There's not a book written on accidental achievements. So the best way to predict your future is to create it. Don't wait for things to happen. Go out and make them happen by creating opportunities and lead with intention.
Great job, Casey. Those are some really great ideas. Just a reminder, we will be doing a Q&A with everyone when they are done with their presentations. So please add your questions in the chat at the bottom of the screen. Our next guest is as comfortable in the halls of the Ivy League as he is in a dusty almond orchard. He grew up on an almond farm in Tulare County and attended Cornell University before embarking on a career as a Bay Area banking executive. The soil called him back to the Valley in 2013, where he eventually was hired as chief executive at Harris Wolf Almonds. Please welcome Justin Moorhead.
Thank you, Ashley. I feel very honored to be part of this event today. Before I begin, I just want to share a little bit about why the San Joaquin Valley community is so important to me. Though we may be part of different industries, cities, schools, and cultures, being from the Valley ties us all together in a way I haven't experienced living anywhere else. I feel that sense of pride every time I see Fresno State play with that green V on the back of their helmet. It's a symbol that reminds us that even in our differences, We're all in this together. And that sense of community will stay with us wherever we go. As the leader of an organization with hundreds of employees, the first idea I'd like to share with you is the importance of promoting from within. It can be tempting to chase outside candidates with impressive resumes, but talent can come from less obvious places. In agribusiness, there are many employees that stay in a company for decades, but maybe they don't have a college degree or perhaps there's a language barrier. But those employees are the company's institutional memory. They've seen it grow from the ground up. Typically, when you hire an outsider, they're going to spend the first 3 months just trying to understand what's going on. And your existing employees end up training them. Your best leaders will be those who have already invested in the company's success and have shown their loyalty over the years. If they're missing some key education or skills, it's your responsibility as a leader to help them bridge that gap. If you can't find anybody to promote from within, it's probably a sign that you need to do a better job of equipping the next generation. I'd like to tell you about one such employee. When I started managing operations, one of the first challenges I dealt with was high turnover at one of our plants. As a new manager myself, I needed to get up to speed quickly, so I spent a lot of time talking to our long-term employees. It became obvious to me that one of those employees should be promoted to manager. Not only did she have 25 years of experience at the company, but she clearly had the respect of the entire workforce. When I spoke to her about taking on the role, she was very nervous because her English was her second language. But frankly, I didn't see her lack of fluent English as any different than my lack of fluent Spanish. Most of our workforce speaks Spanish anyway, and it was more important to me that she have a good relationship with the production team. Now, obviously, it's important that we're able to communicate with each other, but her skills and knowledge far outweighed the extra communication effort. 6 years later, she's still thriving in that management role. So even in a perfect working environment, you're going to have some turnover in your company. If you can identify talented folks for your succession plan early and often, it's going to make it a lot easier to transition when that time comes. Before you go with an outside hire, be certain that you aren't overlooking someone deserving. The second concept I'd like to share is the danger of finding yourself in the echo chamber. If you surround yourself with people who think exactly like you, you will only get feedback that reinforces what you already believe. Be intentional in seeking out advice from people of different backgrounds. Running an organization well means connecting with people at all levels, not just your leadership team. In a large company, the people who are most impacted by your decisions likely will have the least influence. You have to be creative to seek out those voices and value their input. Let me share an example with you. Several years ago, we realized we needed to improve our safety program. I'd been walking the floor myself, asking employees if they had any concerns. They always told me everything was fine, and it was tempting to believe that old adage that no news is good news. However, the safety metrics were telling a different story. So we hired a designated safety coordinator to work directly with the employees. Once he had earned their trust, there was a lot more open dialogue on how we could improve our safety culture. That new feedback loop helped our workforce feel included in the process, which made our safety programs even better. The reality is, when you're in a position of authority, people hesitate to tell you what's on their mind, even if you ask for that feedback. So, what mechanisms are you creating in your business to cut that power distance? My final thought to share with you is this. When crisis strikes, run towards the fire and see who joins you. Some people rise to the occasion and others head for the exits. Great leaders are often born in a crisis, so be looking for team players that roll up their sleeves and ask what they can do to help. My first job at Harris Wolff was head of the grower relations department. When I started, almond prices were at an all-time high, and farmers were excited about their future crop. Within the next 6 months, almond prices declined over 50%, creating a lot of turmoil for our growers. Needless to say, we were fielding a lot of phone calls from frustrated farmers. But we made the commitment to answer every call that came our way and provide weekly market updates until prices stabilized the following year. Although the conversations were difficult, they created mutual respect. Honestly, the stress of that time was hard on me and my family, but I wouldn't trade the perspective I gained during that time for anything. Every opportunity for growth in my life has come from facing a crisis head on. As my wife likes to remind me, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. When you go through challenging times, that's when character is revealed. Relationships are also strengthened when you're forced to walk through it together. So don't be afraid to share your load as you build trust and confidence in your team, because they need that experience as well to become great leaders. I hope you find these concepts useful as you evaluate your own businesses. Once again, I'm honored to be part of the San Joaquin Valley business community. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Those are some really great ideas. Our next guest's achievements can be measured in numbers, closing more than $500 million in commercial real estate commitments across the U.S. as a banking VP, involved in more than $2 billion in commercial real estate business over his career, a real estate broker for 10 years now. But for Adam Martanian, co-founder and executive managing director of Pac Capital, with offices in Beverly Hills and Fresno, the numbers that mean the most are the ones that spell client success. Please welcome my good friend, Adam Martanian.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. Before I begin, I'd like to say thank you to Ashley, Gordy, and the Business Journal team for hosting such a great event. I've watched this platform grow over the last 7 years, and seeing professionals before us and here with us today, I must say it's truly an honor to be in such a well-respected group of accomplished people and professionals. My name is Adam Martanian. I am the co-founder and managing director of Pac Capital. We at Pac Capital are an investment manager for relationships between ag and commercial real estate owners across the valley and nationally. We have 2 offices in California, one in Los Angeles, and here in our great city of Fresno. To me, success is a very broad topic, and advice can be very unique when it's provided. As a prior student athlete, I look at success for everyone as a team sport. I use the analogy quite often in our office that business is a team sport, and really we and myself focus on 3 areas of success. One is always be prepared for opportunity. I think, as most of us know here in the Valley, Pat Hill probably said it best. Anybody, anytime, anywhere. This couldn't translate more better into the business world, because opportunity comes and you never know where it is, and you have to be prepared to either get it or capture it. Also, continue your determination to win. Always maintain a winner's mentality. Never, ever get down on yourself. You will face challenges, you will face opportunities, and you will lose in this, but always maintain a win and pull what you can out of things. Lastly, never stop focusing on your commitment to excellence, whether that's to yourself, to your customer, or to your team members. Keep these principles at the forefront of everything you do, and I can assure you success will be within reach. For me, these are core concepts. And while I've submitted 10 ideas, I'm excited to share a little bit more in depth about 2 of them today. The first one that I'd like to talk about is getting comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Case in point, public speaking for most people. In essence, what this really means is, how can you embrace unfamiliar and challenging situations as opportunities for growth and learning, pushing the boundaries? Curiosity and being a diligent student of information were some of the most important values at home when I was growing up. What I believe is curiosity and growth go hand in hand, and remaining curious provides a continual desire to grow, and that is a cycle that can repeat and continue. I found that staying curious and keeping a willingness to grow are vital for success in business and in personal life. These traits will help most people overcome uncomfortable situations in life and in business. There is always unique things that are thrown your way, and being prepared and willing to step up to the plate is one of the most important things. While others and most will choose to avoid these very tough situations or conversations, learning to get comfortable in these areas will lead to tremendous opportunities for both personal and professional growth. For the capitalists out there, this is where the money is. For example, maybe you have to ask that client the hard question. Maybe you have to ask for that business that one time. Maybe you aren't prepared for something and you have to go outside of where you're comfortable. Talking with that team member about why their performance is not up to par are just some of the examples of situations that most people will avoid, that you must lean into in order to overcome those objections internally. Most people fear the unknown and not being liked, but I can assure you that in these areas is where amazing things can happen and you can overcome lots of internal fears. More importantly, in the business world, this is where you can earn your customers' trust and also your team members' trust internally. This is a trait that great leaders have, and I would say is a function that should be rallied around both internally and externally in your professional and business lives. The next one I want to talk about is a formula. A times E equals R. Activity times effectiveness equals results. This was a formula that was given to me by a senior executive while I was working at Wells Fargo. I had worked my way up from a sales role, and I was looking around as I was going through those early days in my career. And I said, okay, what do we have together? We have the brand name behind us. We have all of the same tools. We have access to all the same resources. How can one person be better than another? And it was before this formula was provided to me that I had taken a very proactive approach. In these instances, how do you perform when everything is the same? Look at what you can do differently. And usually that starts with yourself, whether that's you as a leader or that's you as a team member. Taking ownership will lead to success in areas you're not even aware of at this point. When this formula was introduced to me, I had just become a sales leader in the organization. All of a sudden, there were people reporting to me, and I had to manage results because results were being expected of myself. And a lot of times we would sit into these pipeline meetings for sales, and I would see a ton of activity amongst our team members. I made this many phone calls. I talked to this many people. We did this many in-person interviews. That's wonderful. Why are the results so weak? And it wasn't until this equation was given to me, which was once provided to them to solve productivity issues in the customer service, that I found its application being extremely viable in the sales environment. And so what I did was I took the time and the opportunity to go through each sales team member's activity. We went through their activity. I see 100 phone calls in a week. That's amazing work. Why are we not getting to an actual transaction? Why are we not getting to a new relationship? Well, it was because of the effectiveness of those. And so by peeling back what was happening in those conversations, we were quickly able to learn that you do not call doctors in the middle of the day. You do not call other business professionals in the middle of the afternoon. Timing and content were key in those instances and helping us overcome them. Lastly, I'll say, in this world of business, change is the most important element to embrace and to own. The folks that are scared of change will be left behind, and I can assure you, from a leader's perspective and a team member's perspective, rising tides will lift all boats, and all that accept change and embrace it will move forward. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's wonderful to be here in such a great group of people. Have a wonderful morning.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for sharing some of those great ideas. I just wanted to remind everybody to add your questions in the chat. I understand that it was not working earlier, but it should be up and working now. So feel free to ask those questions as we're coming along here. So our next guest is co-founder of one of the Valley's top agriculture real estate brokerages, specializing in high-value properties in California, as well as Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Washington. He excels in collaborating with institutional investors and private equity funds, offering expertise in areas such as dairy farms, row crop ground, and permanent plantings. His most noteworthy achievement is his family, 46 years of marriage with his wife, 3 children, and 10 grandchildren. Please welcome Mark Schull with Schull Ag Real Estate.
Morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I've had the privilege of being a partner in a family business called Schull Ag Real Estate for over 40 years. And during this presentation, I plan on sharing about how Schull Ag Real Estate implemented a succession plan. And I will be discussing one of my favorite management philosophies, living generously. Now, generosity is not just about money or giving money away. It is an attitude or a mindset. Living generously is about giving your time, energy, trust, and appreciation to others. By incorporating these elements into your management style, you create a work environment where your employees feel valued, motivated, and empowered to do their best work, thereby creating a healthy corporate culture. To help you wrap your mind around this mindset, let me give you a glimpse into our industry. Real estate sales can be very competitive, even within the company, with each agent frequently competing for the same client. This is especially true of ag real estate agents. Sometimes it seems like all the agents know all the same customers. Some of the older agents are good friends with the dad. Some of the younger agents are best friends with the son. And an example, a couple of years ago, one of my longtime customers and friend had a son who married one of my agent's daughters. Now, who do you think that client is going to use in their next transaction? It's complicated. It's a question that is often asked our managing brokers, whose client is it, right? Everybody wants to know. But Living Generously can assist with that. In these situations, we may find ourselves needing to collaborate. Living generously may mean being honest with yourself and maybe honest with your own motives. Living generously frequently means taking a step back and trying to look at the situation through the other person's perspective. Living generously may sound like giving in or compromising or just good old negotiations. However, let me give you an insight into living generously. You will know you are living generously when you are finding joy when you are helping others succeed. Besides healthy corporate culture, living generously will also improve customer service, and I believe revenue. The key here is to shift your focus from just closing the sale or meeting your goals to finding the best solution for your client. It's great to have measurable business goals. However, try measuring your success by your client's success. Once again, try measuring your success by your client's success. My goal is to become a trusted advisor who understands my customer needs and delivers exceptional service. This service leads to their success, which builds long-term loyalty and repeat business. By not focusing so much on my success, but for focusing on the success of my clients, I'm not giving up on my financial goals. However, they are secondary. This philosophy of living generously is articulated by Adam Grant in his best-selling book, Give and Take. Spoiler alert, givers are more profitable than takers. Now on to my second topic. Back in 2014, we began to ask the question, how can Schul Ag Real Estate outlive the three founding brothers? First, a brief history of our company. Schul Ag Real Estate was founded in 1983 with my father, Elmer, and with my two brothers, Mike and Rick. Dad retired in 1990, and 5 third-generation members joined the company between 2007 and 2023. Did you get the family head count on that? That's 8 family members in the company. We only have 18 total agents. Even if you count the accountant, the bookkeeper, the administrators, we're still about a third of the company. In hindsight, it looks very obvious that establishing a succession plan was very essential. However, a decade ago, my brothers and I thought we were doing great, moving the company forward with success and passion. Fortunately, we took a deep breath, looked into the future. We decided we needed a plan for the next generation's ownership without disrupting the incredible momentum of our non-family members and staff. So how did we start? Like most people, we started Googling succession planners. There are a lot of choices. We found wealth managers, insurance companies, attorneys, accountants. However, in 2018, we surprised ourselves, hired a psychologist. This psychologist interviewed everyone in the company, and this really gave us a lot of clarity and helped us move forward. First thing the consultant did was define the next generation as family members who've grown up within the company and clearly understand our values and culture, but may or may not be ready at that time for management. The second identification was the top performers, who were defined as the highest producing agents who drive a significant portion of our success and revenue. These top performing non-family agents were the type of individuals who would be very capable of starting their own real estate company if not treated fairly. Our solution was to give equal ownership stakes to both groups. Our top performer group had more than earned their way into ownership, and our real estate The company now functions more like a corporation than a partnership of three brothers. Younger brother Rick is the chairman of the board. Doug Phillips, a non-family member, is the president of the company. And Stephen Schul, Mike's son, is the managing broker. Passing the responsibilities to Doug Phillips has empowered Doug and given my brother Mike and me a new freedom. I now have much more time to do what I enjoy, which includes being that trusted advisor who helps my clients succeed. So why would I make a good succession plan one of my top pillars of success? The main reason is that succession planning has brought new energy and growth to Schul Ag Real Estate. Now, some of you may be questioning our approach to distributing shares of the company to both family and non-family members. Obviously, this dilutes their ownership of the founders. However, part of living generously is the philosophy that having a smaller slice of a bigger pie means more pie. Second, I do get joy from seeing others succeed, and it has been amazing to see the growth of others when you empower them. I believe our succession plan at Schul Ag Real Estate will help the company thrive well into the future. This new energy and growth is a great alternative than the business faltering when the old guard hangs on way too long. So on that note, take a lesson from our experience, start a conversation with your partners, your investors, your family members who are part of the company. I recommend hiring a consultant, discuss the future, identify potential successors, and develop a plan that secures the legacy you've worked so hard to build. Thank you.
Great job, Mark. Thank you. As we are approaching our last speaker, just a reminder, we will be doing a Q&A with everyone when we are finished with their presentations. Please add your questions now in the chat at the bottom of the screen. Last but certainly not least, our next speaker has successfully prosecuted some of Fresno County's most dangerous criminals. She is especially known as a strong advocate against violence faced by women and children. She is a staunch fighter against human trafficking and the scourge of fentanyl, and has taken a lead role in fighting against property crimes and bringing common sense reform to California's justice system. Please welcome Fresno County's District Attorney, Lisa Smitkamp.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Ashley and Gordy, and to the Business Journal for putting this together and inviting me to be a part of this esteemed panel. I have the honor and privilege of being the district attorney. Not only have I been a prosecutor for 27 years, but now I have the opportunity to serve in some of the political circles here in Fresno and be an elected official. And I don't have the same sort of jobs as some of the other speakers have. We don't want repeat customers in the DA's office. We want people to come in and go through the justice system and leave. But what we do is really a community service. So even though we are not a for-profit organization, or we don't want repeat customers, it is so important that we implement some of the same leadership skills and have some of the same leadership values, really, that people in service do. Because as public servants, we have that responsibility. We are not only responsible to the victims that we serve, but we are responsible to the community as a whole. And that doesn't just include law-abiding citizens. It actually includes being responsible and being of service to the people who are involved in the criminal justice system, because it is our responsibility also to not only bring justice to victims, but to ensure that criminal defendants are provided with an opportunity to have their rights upheld in court also. And so we do lots of different and complex things in the DA's office that are different from for-profit organizations and other service organizations. But we have some of the same tenets, I think, that are so important, and I'd be honored to share some of them with you today. One of the most important things that we try to share with our staff, and we have signs all over the DA's office that say, work hard and be nice. Someone gave that to me. A friend of mine gave that to me because she said, you're one of the hardest working people who seems to do it with such a happy demeanor. And the reason that I'm able to do that is because I really and truly do believe it is a gift to be able to serve the community. I was born here. I was raised here. And I am always open to telling the young people that come into the DA's office that I am Fresno born and Fresno proud, and that I invest every single day, not only in the DA's office, but in the community. And as part of that work hard and be nice theme that we have signs that say that on every floor of the DA's office. You have to live that, and you have to create that authentic environment for people in the office so that they see you implementing and they see you behaving in that way, because that type of of leadership skill that you have is infectious, and it will go down. It will give the people in your office the permission to actually implement that, to see it, and to mimic it really. Especially when you have what we have, which is a lot of young people coming in fresh from college that are our legal assistants, fresh from law school as our new prosecutors. They're very impressionable at that stage, and they are trying to find their way as they enter your organization or they enter your department. And so it's very important, I think, for leaders at the top to not forget where they came from. And something that I do, which I think is so important for other leaders to remember, is to share your personal story. Share your personal story with the young people in your office. Take time to go in, spend 5 minutes with them, tell them some of your successes, which they probably already know rumors about or stories about, but share some of your struggles and share some of your failures. I can tell you that I've told the stories of trials that I haven't been as successful in a lot more than the ones that I have been successful in, because it encourages them and it creates a safe space for them to know that they can continue to learn, continue to ask questions, and that there is always room for improvement and there is always room for failure, and that you create an environment in your department that is safe for them. And they know that when they go out into the world, when in our situation, when they go out into court and sometimes they might get beaten down or sometimes the things might not go their way, they have a safe place to come back to. And so that really incorporates that work hard and be nice mentality that we try to have in the DA's office. And another important thing that I always try to stress to our young prosecutors and our investigative staff and to our support staff is to be honest. Honesty is the pillar of every successful organization, because without it, you will fail. And if you are not honest and you are not forthcoming, you are not going to create an environment for your staff to do the same. If we are not above reproach as prosecutors and working in law enforcement, we have nothing. And I always tell people, no win, no victory is ever worth you compromising your integrity. It is so important to be honest, not only with yourself, but with your colleagues and your comrades, with your adversaries and your friends. It is such an important part of it. It is very important for me also that we create an authentic work environment inside the DA's office, because once again, we are getting sort of beat up a lot outside with the way that things have been going for law enforcement over the past 10 years. It's hard to be a prosecutor today, much like other people have in industries with rising interest rates and inflation and all the other things that affect the economy. There's been several things over the last few years that have affected our ability to do our jobs well. And so creating that authentic, safe environment where people know that they're valued and people know that they are doing a good public service, from our student interns to our legal assistants to our prosecutors and investigators. When there's a win for justice in the DA's office, everybody shares in it, because we really have to make people understand that none of this is a one-man show. None of this can be achieved without teamwork. And I think that a lot of people in all types of industries, whether you're in the medical field, the education field, sales, marketing, real estate, ag, everybody knows that when you are a leader of an organization, you are nothing without your team. And so creating that authentic work environment where people see you working as hard or harder and never, ever asking somebody to do something that you would not do yourself, that is the most important part of being an effective leader, in my opinion. And I think the last thing that I would like to say is don't be afraid to be a follower sometimes, because I think we all get caught up in being these big leaders and trying to be the example all the time. Sometimes as leaders, we have to understand when to follow, because if you don't understand when to follow, you're never going to create an environment for growth. If you are micromanaging, if you are overemphasizing your way or the highway, you're never going to implement growth within the younger people in your department or your organization. So I think leading is a part of really being assertive and being strong, staying calm, being kind, but also letting other people shine their light, because none of us are going to last forever. None of us are going to be in our jobs forever. And whether you call it succession planning or growth and development, whatever the term is you use in your agency, it's very important to allow young people a voice and to help them develop those leadership skills. So thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit today. I've really enjoyed it, and thanks again to the Business Journal.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you to all of our speakers. I hope you guys have had some great takeaways as I have already today. So right now we are going to pass it over to our managing editor, Gabriel Dillard, in the other room, and he will be facilitating our Q&A this morning. So just hold tight as we make that transfer, and we'll be with you in just a second.
Great presentations, guys. Thanks so much. So excited to ask some questions. I wanted to start with some questions about leadership. What are the most important attributes of successful leaders today? And maybe another question to go with that. What qualities are lacking among today's leaders? And just anybody who wants to take those.
Well, leaders don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I think that's been a big driver in the last couple of years. And I think there's ways to deliver information without doing that, that I think needs to be developed amongst a lot of incoming leaders.
I'll add to that. I think that, a lot of owners, they think that people are leaving the company because of higher pay, and that's not necessarily the case. It's usually because of a direct manager or supervisor. About 75% of employees will leave because of the direct supervisor. So I think there's a difference between a manager and a leader. A manager manages things and a leader leads people. And most people get put into a management position and never get training. So it's knowing how to lead people instead of just managing tasks is I think what we're lacking.
As a leader, you really have to be a keeper of the culture. You don't get to define the culture. The organization will do that, but you have the opportunity to kind of move it in that right direction. So you have to really kind of be in tune with your organization, with your people, to be able to understand how to do that. And I think what I see lacking in a lot of leadership right now is frankly just grit, being able to dig in when the times get hard and be able to really focus on what needs to be done at the task at hand.
I will add that in some circumstances, smaller companies, family companies like my own, the leaders do need to set the culture and be an example of that, and not be overly competitive or not being the mentor to the younger people, but the culture can be set by the leaders too, right? Not everybody has an opportunity in their company, but I know at our company, it's very important for the leaders to set the culture.
I think honesty is very important also. A lot of people are great leaders and they're very accomplished, but they have a hard time with confrontation. Even some lawyers have a hard time with confrontation. Sometimes it's hard, as Casey was saying, to get managers to actually manage and for people to address their colleagues, when there's maybe some shortcomings. But there's a big difference between being passive and being aggressive. And that the most important sweet spot there is just to be assertive and be honest with people as time goes on, before things get out of control or before people are, walking out the door and conflicts are created. It's very important to have that open line of communication and a ton of honesty.
John, this question is actually directed at you from the chat. How are you preparing to transition your family business to the next generation?
Just by getting them involved. Everybody has their own, every family member or children has their own skill set. And you have to be passionate about what you do. You have to like what you do. So we just like when I got into the business, I got involved and just kind of worked my way around the different departments and found out which ones I excelled in and which ones I wasn't very good in. But we're doing the same thing for our kids. We've got them involved early on, right out of school, and they're enjoying it. One of them excels in marketing. Our son excels in day-to-day operations. So that's a big part of it. Everyone has to kind of be at the table and participating. And then on the topic of succession planning, Mark, you guys went into it.
We went all in.
Yeah. There's actually two questions on the chat that are kind of the same question is were there any parties that felt aggrieved after the process, and how did you deal with that?
Well, that was part of the reason we hired a psychologist and not a financial planner to help with the number side of it. It was amazing. One of our top performers, been with our company a long time. He said, "I'm not opening up to a psychologist." Wasn't for him.
But in the end, he opened the way up. And then we got an eye opener as the owners about some of the feelings, and some of that was brought out ahead of time. So I'd like to say we worked through those issues and got through those in the process. Now it might be a really good idea to bring that psychologist back and ask that question. So that's a good thought.
Um, we want in the chat they want to get book recommendations out of you guys. What are you reading? Leadership, business, otherwise. What can you recommend?
I guess I'll start. I love reading about prior leaders. And so I think everyone's probably watched the movie Hamilton, but I actually went back and read the 600 or 700 pages about Alexander Hamilton's life to see coming from the Caribbean, coming up into New York, and what he accomplished through just one life, and frankly, a fairly short life, as we all know how that ended, and being able to just be focused on the task at hand. And it changed throughout his life. It's a long read, but it's an inspiring read. So, and I think everybody has an idea of what it's about, but I'd really recommend to just jump into people from our past to understand how they've impacted our country.
Phil Knight's got a book out. It's really good. I think it's Shoe Dog, and it's terrific. It's business. He's a leader, and his experiences. It's what I'm reading.
A book by Tim Goring. It's called Playing the Ace. Very, very good book and a very good read. And it talks about transactional analysis, parent, adult, child, ego state, and conflict between different people, and how to avoid conflict, and how to get out of what we call the drama triangle, why you get in it and how to get out of it. But it's really all about communication and communicating effectively. I think you can get on Amazon, but it's usually out of stock. So
Casey, while we're talking to you, there's a question from the chat. Is there a specific networking event or local group you would recommend for a younger business professional to join to get out of their comfort zone and not be the smartest person in the room?
great question. I personally, I don't know of any networking group. I don't want to give like a plug, but I'm doing a communication workshop coming up in a few weeks. And it's intended to specifically get you out of your comfort zone. And that's where most people, I think, stay. And in order for you to grow and learn, when you get people in a room and have them practice different situations, it's extremely uncomfortable. And that's exactly what I tell them. I said, my job is not to make you comfortable. My job is to make you uncomfortable so you learn and grow. So that's one thing I do know of.
Adam, question for you. What strategies have you found most effective for building and relationships in the lending industry?
That is a great question. Our business is a time-tested business built on trust. And so building trust, however that may be over a long period of time, is probably one of the most important things. And so those relationships don't come overnight, and they take sometimes years, and if not decades, to develop. And so always focus on doing the right thing for the long haul, not the short haul.
How do you handle, and this is for the group, how do you handle criticism and feedback from your team members? Do you get feedback and criticism from your team members?
Yeah, it's important to get criticism and feedback from your team members. That's all part of that communication. You have to know what's going on. They're in the trenches. They have a pretty good feel if there's an issue out there or something that you need to address. And constructive criticism is good criticism because it tells you, hey, wait a second, we might be going in a wrong direction, or we need to take a hard look at the direction we're going in at the moment. So yeah, criticism is important, and you want a team around you that is going to tell you the truth. That's really important.
How do you get that criticism? Are people scared to speak up?
Have bright people that are not going to be scared to tell you, hey, that's not a good idea. And so you try to build a team around you that is smart, and willing to tell you or give you the actual facts, not, some rosy picture.
Yeah, we get criticized a lot. I get criticized a lot in the public internally too. I always say that the district attorney's office is a democracy. It's not a dictatorship. And, there's a lot of people's, things that people say like, oh, well, this came across Lisa's desk. Most of what comes through the DA's office does not come through Lisa's desk. I'm sure every home that's sold doesn't come through John's desk. It's one of those things where you have to keep a culture inside of your department that makes it safe for people to feel that their voices can be heard. And by being that type of a leader who is vulnerable to and not trying to be perfect all the time, and willing to share and willing to open those doors to allow people, I think provides for a healthy environment of communication where employees or staff members, no matter if they've been there for 6 months or they've been there for 20 years, feel comfortable to talk, whether it's up the chain of command or to their managers or to the administrative staff, whatever it is. You have to create that as a leader, because if you create an environment where there is, retribution or there's punishment for people who do speak their mind, that is going to just be a cancer in your organization. And so you have to be that kind of leader that's willing to listen as much as you talk, so that you can ensure that people will communicate with you and they will let you know what they see.
Question from the chat for the group. What's been the most memorable setback you've ever experienced that fundamentally changed the way you live and work? How did you overcome or navigate that challenge?
COVID. That was a big change. I think when, training and being around people, being in front of people, that was a big part of how you grow and how you learn and get involved with the foundations of businesses. And when COVID happened, everything went virtual. However, people did Zoom all the time. This was nothing new. It wasn't something that all of a sudden, oh my God, we're going to put Zoom and everyone has to do virtual trainings and virtual meetings. But I think, really just fast forwarded things, and it fast forwarded for the better, because think about it, you can go from meeting to meeting within a matter of minutes and not have to drive 20 minutes across town. So it's definitely changed the landscape on how we do things to make us more effective. But I also see how it's made people hide behind a camera too. So that's where that getting out of your comfort zone really helps.
For home building business, it was the recession in 2007. It really, it really changed the way our philosophies and our approach on just every aspect of the business. We're a completely different company in the way we operate. And our systems now are completely different than they were prior to the recession.
I want to direct this question at Justin, but I really want to get some feedback from Mark and Adam. Can you explain what we're currently seeing in the ag sector? High profile defaults and bankruptcy.
We have an hour? Let me see if I can kind of boil this down. The challenges that we have right now most recently have been low commodity prices and high input costs, which is things that we've seen in the past before. And so that's part of the typical cycle in agriculture that we experience. The difference today is the change in water availability throughout the valley. And so through the implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, that is really shifting the landscape of where we're going to be able to farm over the next 20, 30 years. And so those, you asked about where are your challenges and, how are you reacting to them? As an ag community, we're in that challenge right now. And we're reacting and trying to be proactive to how we do that. So like, for instance, for myself, that was going up to the State Water Resources Control Board last week and speaking on behalf of our growers about if we lose our ability to farm locally in these rural areas, those are the economic engines of those local communities. I grew up in the town of Pixley. That economy is based upon those local farms existing. If you take away water and eliminate, half of the ground able to farm there, you're not going to have a local economy that's going to be able to support those rural communities. And frankly, I personally don't believe we're paying attention to that enough right now. So there's a lot going on in the ag sector right now. A lot of it's going to be tied to water right now and how that plays out over the next 10 years. Mark, anything you'd like to add there?
Water's king. We say that we used to sell land, now we sell water. You just have to buy the land to get the water. So our land prices are so reflective of water. I would add the input cost interest rates, part of that higher input cost. Banks are cash flow lenders. You need a cash flow to get a loan. So that's you can address that up there too. So it's just a lot of things are coming together at the same time. We get asked all the time, well, if I buy that, what should I plant? Used to be almonds, pistachios, right? Now all of that is in question and people are just trying to find their way in this economy.
Yeah, there was every headwind that could have happened, it happened at the same time. And that is a very unique part of it. And specifically interest rates for our side of things. So what we've done is in order to accommodate the lending, which is really financing the farmers that feed the world, is creating different programs that have different risk tolerances. And so while those rates, will remain elevated, they will provide liquidity to the market in a continual manner when a lot of the traditional lenders who, as Mark mentions, are cash flow lenders, have a very tough time. And so access to capital and credit is the lifeblood of continuing this industry. And so that's where we're focused and dedicated to continuing to refine.
John, a question for you, a really simple question. What's the key to solving California's housing crisis?
Get rid of California's government. There is not enough supply. That's just the bottom line. We need more supply. And it's difficult to navigate the entitlement process in California. There's the environmental issues, there's the local governments, there's the state government rules. The state mandates that we build solar, which is $12,000 a house minimum, maybe 15. Now we can no longer provide gas cooktops. They say on the one side, yes, we have a housing crisis, but on the other hand, they put up a lot of barriers. The simple answer is more supply, but it's difficult to get there.
And on the topic of government, DA Smitkamp, if you could help me with the question I had, what is the disconnect between our elected leaders in Sacramento and just your average citizens when it comes to public safety? There seem to be on different planets.
Yeah, I face this every single day. I think what happens is that people in society today, really good people on both sides of the aisle, whether they're Republican or Democrat, they're busy. They're inundated with information. We have extremely hectic lifestyles. Everybody is trying to work hard and make money and get their kids raised up and be profitable and get to the gym and look good and post on social media so they can be popular within their social groups. And people aren't paying attention to who they vote for. They vote for people based on sex, race, religion, or how they look. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, "Oh, but Gavin Newsom's so handsome. I just want to vote for him." Okay, well, do you like his policies? Or, this person is my same gender, or I want to see a woman in this position or that position. You cannot vote for people based on what they look like or what gender they are. People have to start to be smarter at the ballot box. People have to start to demand that when people are elected to these positions in the Assembly and the Senate, because that is where our laws are coming from. They have to make those people accountable to what they as the voters want, because public safety is one issue that should be nonpartisan. Everybody should want public safety. It's really ironic to me where you have some of these people who are anti, police and anti-prosecutors and anti-jail and anti-accountability. And then when they're victims, boy, does their tone changes quickly, and they want justice for fill in the blank, their child or their father or whoever was murdered. So I think as a whole society in the state of California, we have to make our governor, our Attorney General and the people in our legislature, both in the House, in the Senate, and the Assembly, more responsible to what we want. And this public safety and criminal justice reform has gone too far. And it's time now, we have the opportunity in November to vote for Prop 36, which is going to reform Prop 47 and make people who use drugs and sell fentanyl and steal things more accountable under the law. And I think that's the first step in many that needs to happen to get back to the middle, to where we just get rid of this madness of just chaos, because that's what it's created.
Okay, this will be our last question, and it's I hope it's a little bit of a fun one. It's actually two. Do you have a secret talent, and how do you relax? You guys work hard. How do you relax? Whoever wants to take it.
I guess I'll begin. One could argue that it's not a talent in my family, but we relax by karaoke nights at our house. I think I'm talented. My kids say otherwise, but and kind of all kidding aside, being able to not take yourself too seriously, I think is a huge part of being a leader. And so you've got to find ways, even if it's something as dumb as doing karaoke at home, to be able to have some perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I think it's really spending time with my children and my family. My mom is still with me. She's 81. And, I call my friends my family. And I'm so fortunate to have been born and raised here. And I get teased at the DA's office all the time when people ask me, what are you doing this weekend? And I say, I'm going to hang out with my high school friends. They laugh. They think I'm kidding. But I have a group of friends that fuel me, and they know me, and they don't care what I do for a living. They don't care if they see me on the 6 o'clock news. They don't care if we win or lose big cases. They just love me, and they fuel me, and they inspire me to keep fighting for our community and to keep doing the work that I'm doing, because the thing that to me that makes Fresno great and the Valley great is people. And so knowing that I get to sort of vent to them and just laugh with them. And, some other guys that I went to high school will be like, please go get me a beer. And I'm happy to do that, and it's fun that they just treat me like they did when we were teenagers. I think that's really what fuels me.
Yeah.
Probably common themes, spending time with family. We have a young, growing family. So when we're not working hard, we're playing hard, we're running after the kids. And so that's joyful for us right now.
Well, thank you guys. I believe that's it. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
It's me again. Thank you so much for sending some of those great questions over to our speakers this morning. On behalf of the Business Journal and our sponsors today, a portion of our proceeds will go back to Breaking the Chains. Breaking the Chains is a 501c3 nonprofit organization located in California's central San Joaquin Valley. Breaking the Chains works with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies to provide hope, healing, and restoration to lives impacted by human trafficking. In closing, thank you so much for attending today. A big thank you to our speakers for their time and effort on an event we feel is so beneficial to our business community. Thank you. Have a great morning. And that's a wrap.